Hi and welcome back to the channel. The next set of videos I'm going to do is going to be about building some structures for my ash wastes setting that I've been working on. So far most of the things that I've been making have tended to be industrial, machinery, equipment, that sort of thing, or vehicles, and I need some more what you describe as residential looking pieces. So this is kind of an example of the kind of thing I've been making, often based around a piece of household waste. In this case, this would have been a container that those washing up pods would have been in. So that's just to give you a kind of idea of the sort of thing I've been making and doing the weathering on with some of the videos on the channel so far. I tend to try and incorporate a few different things. There's often a GW part or two included just to help ground it in that setting. As I say, the main aim is to try and do a bit of scratch building along with kit bashing, just kind of all bringing it together into each of these little pieces like that. So that's been the idea, but as I say, I need some more residential looking buildings just to make it a bit more of a setting where people could live. It's going to be an industrial complex or a mining site in some remote location in the ash wastes, and a settlement will have built up around that, and there will be bits of machinery, most of it all scavenged or repurposed, that kind of thing. As always, in terms of getting some inspiration from books and the like, little Necromunda magazine here. Great illustrations like that, where you see little suggestions of shanty towns and settlements. And in these books there are rules for shanty town dweller gangs and some of the territory that they would have. There's stuff for the ash waste nomads. So there's a lot of stuff there expanded on from the base game. If you're ever looking for inspiration for building a piece of equipment or a building, these territory tables from the Necromunda game are really useful for it, because in each case you get a little name for the territory type and then short passage of text to help explain what it is. And a lot of these things I've used as a guide for making machinery or my terrain pieces. So in the case of the one you see there, you can put that down as a water purifier. There's a pipe into maybe some subterranean storage, or you can imagine all sorts of things going on inside there to maybe purify water. Maybe another one here, which I would put down as the wind trap. So this would collect the wind coming through, rotate, and there's a little description there. A wind trap and its catch basin are one of the few sources of water in the ash deserts of Necromunda, and then you can sell that purified water for credits as part of your gang's income. But this is a piece of plastic packaging for one of those kind of vacuum formed plastic shapes, and there would be something inside there when you buy it. In fact, most of the bits on here, the main parts, are from just things that you would maybe be throwing away, and then I've added detail to them with bits from the bits box, or greebles as a lot of people call them. Just nice little bits of detail to make things look a bit more technical. But yeah, so really recommend, if you're looking for inspiration or a reason to build something, having a look at some of these territory tables and then just picking something and using that as a source for inspiration. Of course, there's always books to look at. This one's called Structura, the Art of Sparth, who is a French artist, and in this book it's just full of really amazing sci-fi digital art. So always a good source of ideas or inspiration if you're looking to make something, whether it be a figure or a building or a setting. What I've noticed with a lot of the bits I've made, especially with these bits of machinery, they're all kind of at one level, there's not much height to them. So what I'm looking to do with the residential stuff, you know, the kind of shantytown designs, is get a bit more height, maybe 2-3 floors of stacked buildings to get that look. I mean, there's a great one there, the train coming through this deep canyon high up on the tracks. Really good. Again, it's like a scavenged ramshackle structure. I really like this one here, just in terms of the height and all the different parts and components making that up. Almost none of it original, just all again scavenged or built up over time to create that. And then of course the Drifter graphic novel, and in particular this view of a settlement, which is pretty much exactly the kind of look that I'm trying to do and have been trying to achieve. It's the variety of the buildings. There's obviously an industrial element to it, large chimneys and the variety of buildings there. So I've got a copy of that on my wall, just as a kind of reference to look up at for some of the buildings I'm going to try and do. Yeah, so lots of good stuff in there, and just suits what I'm looking for with this whole settlement built around some sort of mine or mining facility. So again, things like that. It's kind of some sort of workshop type building. I like to kind of get in some bright colours here and there, just to help indicate that these different walls and things are from different places at different times. And again, a few GW parts in there to tie it into the overall setting. So yeah, we'll get going with building some of these shantytown structures. Maybe take a look at finding materials, what kind of things to look out for, and see how it comes out. So I'm just going to start looking at some of these buildings at an early stage, just to give you an idea of how to get going with them, or how at least I've gotten going with them. Materials wise, probably 4 ways that I've experimented with so far. First would be constructing your building using styrene sheet. The advantage of that being that you can then just glue other plastic parts directly to it using your normal plastic glue, and it's a quick, easy way of working. Another method would be foam card as a basic building material. Old stalwart of White Dwarf magazine, when they used to encourage you to make things, it was always foam board. It comes in bigger sheets. I think it'll be about an A3 sheet, and it's really light and easy to work with. Another one would be just plain old card, kind of stuff you'd get from a cereal box perhaps, or whatever. Again, easy material to get a hold of, and you can pretty much make any of these box shapes. The other method might be finding an appropriately shaped piece of plastic packaging like this, albeit they're often a bit rounded or they've got kind of funny shapes, but those can help with the overall look of the building, and you can get some quite interesting things. This is some sort of plastic packaging cover, vacuum formed type thing, and they can be a bit flimsy. So what I've done is use some foam card just to give it a bit of structure so that it can't be crushed too easily. So notice there that I've got a glue gun for doing that. I happen to use one of these Bosch glue pens. Again, totally piece of convenience really. There's no power cord, it's a rechargeable type thing, and you put the glue sticks in there and then you can just kind of freely work with it. And that's how I've glued together the foam board stuff in the past, and that's what I use. So I think I'll put together something using this foam board. Materials wise, just need a pen maybe for marking out sizes, a little steel ruler to help you measure things and run your scalpel blade along, and that's really it. So I'll start cutting up something here and see what happens. Don't need to get too bogged down with things being accurate. It's enough just to get things roughly where you need it, because the convenient thing about making things for this ash waste setting is it is all kind of ramshackle and scavenged, so sizes aren't too important. Foam board stuff cuts really easily. Always liked using it, and it's sturdy as well. Once you glue that together, you know, it's not going to fall apart. So just use the glue pen for this. Doesn't have to be neat. It's just a nice and easy way to put things together. Get a little bit of working time before it dries or before it cools. And PVA would be perfectly fine for this as well, just any old white glue stuff. Don't need anything fancy to do this at all. And that's it, you know, 6-sided box. Pretty roughly done, but that's going to be okay. And then we can clad that with other materials later, and you won't see this at all. All I'm doing right now is just making a base structure onto which other things will be glued or stuck onto. And that's really it. And there was little blobs from the hot glue, and just cut them off. Just to get a nice flat surface for gluing things to later. Another material that's great to work with is the styrene sheets. Comes in all sorts of different thicknesses, so you can buy packs of it, get a selection. Really useful material to have. Always feels really exact when you're working with it, just the way it cuts and snaps and glues together. Like I said before, it's got the convenience that you can just glue other parts right onto the surface, other plastic parts. Just do one score, satisfyingly snap apart. So I've just marked out some rough sizes on here to make a little 4-sided building, or what would be like a room really. It's not going to be much of a building, but okay, I've got all the sides I need for this little shape. One thing I want to do though is have a doorway built into it. This is one of those Kill Team doorways. All I've done is chopped away the rest of the bulkhead that was around about that, just using the long saw just to get the door on its own. It's one of these kind of roll up metal doors. It'll work quite well. And now I've got the sides reasonably square, and I just want to make basically just make a little square cutout shape that this can get glued into. It's styrene, so this will all just glue together, but I want it to sit in to the building more. So I'll just measure this and then cut out the shape. And then don't worry about doing things centered or anything like that. Probably better to not center them, actually just knock everything off a bit. The good thing with it being styrene plastic is that you can sand it easily as well. So if you just need to tighten up any corners or edges, it's really easy to do. And keep all the cut-offs, they're always useful, these bits. Okay, so that would work. Close enough. Nice kind of industrial door to fit into this. Okay, I've got the Tamiya extra thin cement for this. Some quick drying glue to work with. And because the walls are so thin, there's not much structure there to hold it together while you're waiting for the glue to go off. You can make these little triangular pieces, little right-angled triangles, just to give you a shape that you can offer up into the corner to help get somewhere near a 90-degree corner. Okay, that's the door added in there. And you can almost see it taking shape already. It doesn't take a lot to start imagining these things and maybe getting a bit carried away too early, but it's a bit wobbly in there. It's hard to get an exact fit when you cut out that shape. So I've got some of this right-angled styrene extrusion stuff, and I've cut off a few pieces I can use just to border the door. So it takes a little more work and time to cut out and glue together the styrene assembly compared to using the foam board, but you get a much more exact, neater finish, and you can make some more complicated shapes. The foam board's good with the glue gun for quickly blocking out structures, you know. It's quick and messy way of working, but the styrene is really good for being a bit more exact. I quite like the gluing method for the styrene stuff and the plastic kits in general, using the extra thin Tamiya stuff. Just, you know, hold things together and the glue will work its way through the joins. Okay, that just firms all that up and helps it sit in the surface there. And then last couple of bits to go on. Okay, that completes that box shape. You can see that you're just creating a real blank canvas on which you can build more onto. And it's a nice sturdy basis for that. Yeah, just adding some more structural design to this. A bit random, just making it up as I go. I've got no real plan for it. I just want some interesting shapes to the buildings to make them nice and random. Okay, there we go. So that's a good basis for one of these shanty town type buildings. Again, I'm going for that industrial look. I don't want them to look like modern day Earth shanty towns. I want them to have some sort of sci-fi element to them, and that's why I'm looking at those references that I showed you earlier. And I've done the same, you know, with the foam board. Just start cutting out some shapes, and with the glue gun, quickly stick them together. Introduce some sloping roofs, things like that. Something might be useful for you. These are just cheap engineering blocks from Amazon or eBay or something like that. So they're not going to be as accurate as expensive ones, but they're useful when you almost need a spare hand, because they're nice and weighty, and you put them down, you can actually get things against them, you know, and then you can come in with another piece and kind of apply some pressure to it and glue things, or you know, get a nice right angle by using the corner of it to glue pieces together. And yeah, handy to have when you're doing stuff like this. And of course the other material I mentioned earlier, the plain old card, kind of cereal packet stuff. So I think I'll make another building from this. Maybe just fold something up. So I've just drawn out a little pattern there, and I can start cutting this out. And then no need to chop it all up, can maybe just score for a folding edge using the wrong side of the scalpel. Maybe a little more time consuming to glue together, just because you're using white glue now rather than plastic stuff or super glue. And then I'll just cut out the top and bottom for that. Another option for getting started with making up a building is to begin with a plastic piece from a kit or whatever, and then in this case styrene sheet, build around that. So I've got a bit from the bits box, a nice kind of wedge shaped piece that would make quite a nice little roof. There's some holes in it, so I've just patched that over with some other bits from the bits box. Getting ahead of myself in terms of doing that, but nonetheless it's a decent starting point for a small building. So I'm just going to grab some styrene and create something around that. So that's now turned into a little kind of box shaped building there. Nice and easy to do. And what's good about all these things is you can kind of stack them together to start making interesting little layouts. But yeah, I do like the styrene stuff to work with. It's really quick and easy to do. Like I said before, the other type of starting point is you take a piece of packaging and then build from there. I've got one here that was a toiletries gift set, a few kind of bottles. I've taken the top and bottom of that and then placed them back to back. I've tried gluing around the outside edge. It's a bit of a mess, but I've been using some model and paste just to try and smooth that over and sand it down. But the reason I like that shape is that these circular recesses happen to take the Games Workshop sized Adeptus Mechanicus hatches and things. I thought that might be quite an interesting shape to turn into something with a kind of rounded edges and things as a bit of a contrast to the rest. I don't know if that will work, but I'll give it a go. And that cardboard one there, it's ended up being kind of two cubic shapes intersecting and glued together. Again, useful for stacking up with some of the other bits that I've got here. You know, you can do different layouts. These things will get glued together to form larger structures, but I think the plan is to maybe see how much I can keep separate. The next video, I'm going to start doing the greebling or the bits boxing, where I'm going to be taking various plastic parts and gluing those onto these surfaces. These are all basically blank canvases right now, and I'm going to look at getting different types of cladding materials to put on these to make them look a bit more interesting and a bit more like a shanty town in some necromunda type settlement somewhere. And that's going to be a lot of fun to do. You know, just finding bits that happen to sit together really well and gluing those up. So we've got enough here to work with for the next stage, and hopefully you can join me for that. But in the meantime, thanks very much for watching the video.